Welcome to the Simplified Dentistry podcast. Join us as we discuss clinical, operational, and financial aspects of your practice, help you enjoy life, and dare to simplify dentistry.
Welcome back to the Simplified Dentistry podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Mustafa Shakan, along with my co-host, Dr. Richard Offit and Dr. Mortaza Shakan. We want to welcome today's guest, Dr. Glenn Vo. Dr. Vo is a graduate of the Texas A&M College of Dentistry. He is the founder of the Nifty Thrifty Dentist, a community of over 60,000 individuals, and is also the founder of Dental Lifestyles magazine. Dr. Vo is able to help dental professionals level up their careers through the power of community. We'd like to thank our sponsor, Oral Arts Dental Laboratories. Oral Arts is a full-service dental lab based in Huntsville, Alabama, serving dentists nationwide with high-quality, U.S.-made prosthetics and orthodontic appliances. Oral Arts combines advanced technology with personalized service to deliver reliable, affordable solutions that support patient care. Oral Arts is one of the few labs that meets the standards to be part of my team. Take a look at oralartsdental.com. Glenn Vo, thank you for being with us today. We really appreciate you coming in. Kind of for our listeners, tell us a little bit about you. Tell us your story.
Well, I'd like to tell people that I got into dentistry a little bit different. Now my wife, who's a dentist, she's always wanted to be a dentist, and that's a lot of stories we hear about other doctors.
I never wanted to be a dentist.
Not me.
Okay, so
never.
so now we're all have something in common, and I was that person. I was like, that was never on the radar, right?
Yeah.
When I was in college, I was just kind of having fun, and I was at grad school. I was going for hospital administration, right?
Okay.
I was doing that program for that. And why did I choose that? Well, it sounded like a good job. I mean, make decent money or whatnot. So my sister, who's a dentist, she was practicing in Falls Church, Virginia. And I was visiting her. I was helping her out. And she was like, hey, why don't you come down, help me out during your break? One of my assistants was going on vacation. But little did I know that she had an ulterior motive.
Like full-on intervention?
Yeah, she had a motive. And like any big sister, right? Any older sibling, I mean, they feel like they can say whatever they want to you, right?
I know nothing about that kind of relationship.
So I was assisting her, and she stopped what she was doing. I think I was assisting on a composite or something. Stopped what she was doing. She looked at me and she said, Glenn, do you want to be a loser the rest of your life?
Wow.
And only an older sibling can say that.
Yeah.
And when she said that, I was like offended, like a loser.
That's pretty damn aggressive.
I mean, she looked at me. The patient sitting there looked at me too. The patient wanted to know.
Oh, damn.
That patient wanted to know.
The patient need to get up and leave.
I mean,
It's like, who's
the
this
patient
guy helping?
I mean, she wanted to know. Does he want to be a loser? I said no. It's like the reason why I brought you down here is I felt like you have some more potential than what you're doing. Like you have potential to be a doctor, smart guy, great personality. And that's when she put that seed in my head. Like, hey, why don't you look at dentistry? And honestly, I didn't think about it. I mean, come on, teeth. I'm like, what?
Yeah,
Exactly.
But what she sold me on is not the teeth, but the person attached to the teeth, right? The people, mentoring people, educating people, being a pillar in the community. And that's actually how I got into dentistry. So what happened is that after that trip, I was like, okay, well, I got to take some prerequisites. I got a degree in psychology, and honestly, I just got it because I had to pick a major. My sister was always the smart one. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm the middle child. I can kind of fly under the radar. And, my folks were giving me a hard time. Like, they felt like I had more potential as well. And so went back to school. Literally got another degree in biology and, went to dental school, and the rest is history. But the big thing is that a lot of times people don't realize that when you get into dentistry, it's not just because of one thing. It's because of multiple things. And so what I tell doctors whenever they want to create a practice that they like, I tell them, you don't want to create a practice like I had or like maybe how you guys had it. You got to figure out what works for you. And maybe that's niching it down to particular procedures. Maybe you're doing more surgery or whatnot, or maybe you become like an entrepreneur like you guys, right? So
it's interesting you say that. I'm obviously first generation, kids of first generation immigrants, and both my parents are physicians, and the thing was always with them, and maybe it was the same thing with your sister, is you have to have a career that nobody can take away from you.
Yeah.
And they always viewed if you work for the bank or if you work here, somebody can take that away from you. And it's the holy triumvirate: doctors, dentists, lawyers. Is kind of how immigrants look at it. Do you see it like that?
Well, I mean, that's definitely something that my parents really pushed. And what I'll say is that obviously my sister, just smartest person in the family. She graduated early from high school. She graduated from dental school when she was like 20 years old. Okay. And that's unheard of.
Sure.
If you're going to school here in the
Yeah.
States, right? You hear, foreign doctors coming in and they can do that. So she was an overachiever. And so I was always kind of in her shadow. And, so I never really just had the belief in myself, like, hey, I could do something more. But she is somebody, like, again, a good sibling. She saw that in me. She was like, man, you're wasting your talents. And that's what she said. And for me, it's like sometimes you just kind of need that belief, someone kind of getting behind you.
Someone to say that.
Yeah.
Someone to say that.
Yeah.
And again, as a immigrant that came over here, the mentality is a little bit different, right? My dad was, my family came here because of the war in Vietnam. We're Vietnamese.
Mm-hmm.
And so my dad came from a situation where he was respected, who was in the military, and he came here and he ended up being a janitor for the first few years here and moving his way up. So he came with a toughness, right? Yeah. And again, it's just different generations and whatnot. And so for me, just growing up in that, I was born here in the States. I wanted to be like my friends who, had like the kind of like the all-American upbringing, that, and just coming with the immigrant mentality. That was really tough for me. My dad was the type of person who he didn't mince words. He said it how it was, in your face type of thing. My sister was a little bit different. She couldn't understood. She understood. She grew up here. And so that's when she came back and said, hey, look, you know what? You don't have to be like me, but I feel like you have a lot of potential. And so that is something I've always kept in myself. Now, as a parent, always making sure that my kids, I was like, hey, I got your back. Whatever you want to do. I feel like if you want to do this, if you want to win the state title in wrestling, right? I will do whatever I can. I can't wrestle for you.
Yeah.
I always told my son that. I can't wrestle for you, but I can find you the best coaches.
Yeah.
I will drive you to all the practices. I will take you to whatever tournaments needed to help you accomplish your hopes and dreams, right? So I always tell people, I lived in a world where I had one foot in two different worlds, right?
Yep.
Which is here in the States and here, the immigrant mentality, like, hey, you gotta come here, you gotta grind, doctors, dentists, lawyers, right? Like, you gotta make something that is like, you can't be something in, look, liberal arts degree, that was unheard of for us, right? Like unheard of, right? So, I'm glad that you brought that up, because that's something, but I think that's also shaped my perspective. Like, I think different from the average dentist who, want to open a practice, they want to do their CE, they want to do all those things. For me, I've always looked at it from a different lens. Like, hey, I didn't get into dentistry because I liked teeth or I liked, science or whatnot. I actually got into it because I like the relationships. I like the business aspect, right? I like the fact that you can go there and you're not confined to just doing one thing, having only one practice. You can do multiple practices.
Yep.
You can do, obviously things are changing a little bit now, right? Just a little bit. But when I was growing up, dentists were like the entrepreneurs in the health profession.
It gives you opportunity to do all kinds of different things. And, when I was looking at it, one thing I always wanted out of my profession is to be able to deliver care and be a healthcare provider. I always thought that meant being an MD. Once I discovered, dentistry, I was like, well, one, it's the ability to do that. Two, I don't work all the time. And three, I can do other things. And I think that's the biggest thing that people miss about what we do is it allows you to do other things if you want to.
Yeah, you have so much flexibility in your life. I'm in the category with your wife that I was raised by a dentist and the father of one of my best friends. But it gives you total flexibility.
Well, the quality of life thing is the biggest thing too. You know,
yeah.
you have your work-life balance in a different structure than our medical friends do.
Yeah,
And
no,
and we can
absolutely.
decide, you can go to your kid's wrestling match or soccer game. You can adjust your schedule as a practice owner to do the things that fit that timeline.
The thing that's interesting that I think that all of us are talking about one way or another is, regardless of where you came from, is that it was through education that gave the first generation families here, they weren't going to be the social elites in any town,
Right.
but what it gave us is the chance to go. Merit is the big leveling event in life, right? Can you do it? Right? Can you do it? Can you do it better than the other guy?
Yeah.
And are you tough enough to stay in the game? I think that's in anything we're talking about, whether we're talking about a dental practice or whether we're talking about any endeavor that you do in your life. It's do you have the pure grit to stay in there when the others whine and go home?
Yeah. And it's been proven time after time, every single generation, right? There's stories. If you're willing to put in the work, you can make something of yourself. And then there's a lot of places that don't
You
offer
can't
that.
do that.
Yeah, you can't do
It's
that.
the American experiment, and it works.
And the truth is the people without the grit stayed in their native country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The truth is.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's why my dad came here.
Yeah,
My
exactly.
dad came here because, there wasn't the same opportunities in India, and even he was a physician in England, wasn't the same opportunities. That's why he came here.
It was all about going to the top. Yeah.
I feel like looking at your career, dentist almost seems like a long time ago. I mean,
it's one day a month, right? A busy month, a weekday and a half.
Yeah. So you still have your hands in it a little bit, but you've kind of gone into other things,
right?
Nifty. I mean, everybody is probably that's listening to us has probably heard of Nifty Thrifty Dentist.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
So Nifty Thrifty Dentist is, honestly, it's not a slogan. It's not a catchphrase. It was a way of life for me. And so again, being just, first generation immigrant here, there was a lot of things that we had to do to get by. Again, when we came here, there were times where sometimes, money was tight, and it was sometimes I wonder if hey, what are we gonna eat today? What kind of food are we gonna eat today? I tell a story a lot. My mom, when she went grocery shopping, she would collect the receipts at the grocery store, and on the receipts of the grocery store, sometimes there's coupons for a buy one get one free Big Mac, right? And I remember as a kid, every once in a while, my mom would take us to go eat McDonald's, and we would all get Big Macs. And I thought, man, this is amazing. We're going to McDonald's.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until when I was a little bit older, we're at a grocery store, my mom, and I got the receipt. I turned it over. I was like, hey, Mom, remember you used to collect these coupons, right? And she's like, let me tell you a story about it. And the story behind that was when money was tight and we didn't have enough for groceries, my mom would pull out of her purse these buy one, get one free Big Mac coupons. And so what she would do is she would go to not the McDonald's by her house, she actually across town. And I always wondered, maybe she went there because maybe she was friends with the manager, because the manager was always nice. But on those coupons, it says,
which location?
Well, it says limit one per customer. But she went, and this particular McDonald's, when he looked and he saw 5, she came in with 5 kids. He was like, oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. So literally, those coupons and eating a Big Mac is a way for us, when money was tight, we would go eat there. So when I say Nifty Thrifty, being resourceful, it's not a slogan, it's a way of life. And so for me, having that mentality, when I went to college, look, my parents did what they could, right? But I had to fill in the gaps, right? So I worked 2 jobs. I worked as a dental assistant. When I went back to school, I went dental assistant, and I waited tables. And actually, I'm going to go off on a tangent here. For anyone who ever wants to level up their communication skills, waiting tables. I'm actually going to make my kids do it.
Yeah.
Right?
My wife did it and raves about it.
I mean, and that was never a problem for me, building rapport with new patients, because literally whenever someone sat at my table when I was at the restaurant, I had like 1 minute to get on their side, to have them like, because my tips depended on it.
That's
right?
that's like bartending.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
exactly,
Like
yeah.
I literally had to figure out like right away. And a lot of times whenever a patient sits down, you almost have that same thing. And so just me being resourceful, I was always nifty thrifty, even when I did my startup practice, right? Buying used equipment, you know, doing a lot of other things myself. And so Nifty Thrifty Dentist is something that came up because that's actually how I practiced, you know? So it's not about, people think, okay, Nifty Thrifty, being cheap. No, it's not about being cheap.
About being smart.
Yeah.
It's about being smart and using your resource on the things that really matter.
Right.
Right. And so that kind of started up, and now, I mean, that community just kind of grew. And from there, I just saw opportunities to, you know, do good for the profession. And that's the thing. Like a lot of times people are like, okay, well, what are you getting? I say, look, you can't approach business or relationships like that, like what you get. You got to figure out like what you can do for other people. When you can figure out what you can do for other people, the money is going to come.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. So that's kind of like the story behind Nifty Thrifty. It was something that was part of my life.
A way of
already.
life.
Yeah, it was a way of life for me, you know? So
Yeah, and you know so we're simplified dentistry, and we chose that name because that's what we want. We want to simplify the practice of dentistry for docs. You know, because it can be too hard, it can be too daunting. So what are the things that you can do? So we try to set up, you know, aspects of how do we simplify it clinically, how do we simplify it operationally, how do we simplify it financially for people. And we get the same question. So what are you out to do here? And like, look, you know, we are out to build a community, and we're out to help the profession. And after you do that, you know, opportunities will come.
Yeah.
You know, and,
You know, if most people look at it, they'll realize that the profession has given them so very much, and that with the opportunity with what you're doing, what we have done, what we're trying to do at present, it's given us so much that I think the message that you just said, Glenn, is really lost on many people. About what can you do for all these for this greater community? Because if you do, it'll come back.
Yeah.
It'll come back tenfold.
Yeah.
Right. And that's true in life, in almost
general,
every aspect of life.
Yeah.
Right?
If you're successful in something, you should do things to help the greater community.
well, it's like how you approach practice. You know, I mean, I can push crowns on people all day long. I can try to increase productivity all day long, but what is going to have a substantial long-term effect is if people understand that you're in it for them, and you're trying to help them, then they're going to trust you, and then it goes long. That's kind of the same thing in Nifty. I think that's the same thing in Simplify. Look, provide things for people, and then there are going to be other things that you can do with it. You know, that's kind of the way I look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, you know, if you lead with value, people are going to see that, and you're going to attract the right people, right? The right people. And again, that's whether it's in, you know, your practice, your personal life, or any of those things, or if you join a new organization, if you're the person who, hey, look, what can I do for other people? You're going to attract the right people. And so it seems like a simple thing to do. I think it's really hard for people to.
It's hard to live that way.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
It's not an easy proposition.
There's always going to be inflection points where you've got to decide which path you
Yeah,
want to
yeah,
take.
and it's
and
how
if
do
you stick to that path, it works.
It's what decision do you make when no one's looking?
Yeah, exactly.
That's really
And, you know, it's too many times, and I've listened to it and I've heard it. There are too many people that want to take advantage of dentists. There are opportunities to take advantage of dentists. There's opportunities to get into their pocket all the time, and I'm like, you know, that drives me.
Yeah,
crazy.
when Dr. Chacon and I were doing previous business things, I always referenced it like that. The dentist is at the beach for a swim. They don't realize the sharks that are circling around trying to take a chunk of them, right? And you know, the dentist is just having a nice day at the beach, and you know, and it's like the Jaws movie out there, you know, we're chomping on them.
You can't talk about sharks too much, or moose now start freaking out.
But you know, that's where we've had success, and I think that's where you have success is when it comes from dentist versus when it comes from a outside MBA or something like that who's kind of leading the charge, it's a different deal because we're in the trenches.
Oh, yeah.
We understand what it is, so we understand how to make something make sense for a doc, you know, and how to help the doc, you know, because we look at it, you know, we've always done, what do I want to work with? I only want to work with things that, or what do I want to promote? Only things I want to work with. You know, that's the bottom line. You know,
When we had we were Dr. Chacon was working on a contract at a supply company one time, and their marketing people came, and we're dentists, and we were selling to dentists. Marketing person came and said, "We think we should lead with mops and brooms."
Yeah.
In other words, and Dr. Moose says, that's just not on the top of the list for most dentists. Now, you know, everybody needs a mop and everybody needs a broom, but mops and brooms probably shouldn't lead the damn list, right? I mean,
I don't care what the price of the mop or the broom is.
That's right. I'll buy one. One.
Tell me what the composite is.
Ever, right?
Yeah, you get your hands on a lot of things. What are you passionate about right now?
Wow. I mean, I'm really passionate, again, about creating relationships, right? Relationships with you three, relationship with other doctors, meeting other doctors. Everything that I've ever done in my life has been relationship driven, even in my practice. You know, I mean, if you think about your best patients are coming there because you have a great relationship with them. They're not timing you like, hey, doc, took you an extra 5 minutes on that crown prep, right? Or anything. I mean, they might be, hey, that kind of hurt and stuff like that. But like, as far as like, oh, let me look in the mirror here. Let me look at that finish line you did on that prep, right? They don't care about that. They care about the relationships. And so I've always told doctors that if you take care of the relationships, if you really care about your patients, your patient's going to stay there and they're going to refer people there, right?
Absolutely.
Now, the clinical side, of course, that's very important. You got to be proficient, right? But for me, building these relationships are what's going to bring other opportunities. But I'll tell you what motivates me to keep on pushing forward. And the reason being, it's actually my kids. Because I can't tell my son or my daughter. My daughter, we talked about my son a lot. My daughter also is a competitive swimmer and she plays water polo. And I can't go to them and say, hey, you know, I mean, if you want to get to the next level, you got to put this effort in. I can't tell them that if I'm sitting there drinking pina coladas all day.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Watching the Weather Channel.
Oh yeah, do all those things.
They learn a lot more from seeing.
Watch.
Yeah.
Right? And why am I so, just protective of my schedule? I'm just trying to always find more time for them. Is because how can I tell them, hey, let's put our phones down. Let's sit here at dinner time. Let's talk. This is important for us to catch up. How can I do that if I'm never around? And so for me personally, having kids was one of the just best things in my life, not only just on a personal level, on a spiritual level, but on a professional level. Because you talk about someone who, accountability partners.
Yeah.
I mean, your kids are there.
No filters.
And they will remember everything. Again, I want everyone to think about all the memories you had as a kid. Like, I remember everything when I was in elementary school. I remember the times when my dad forgot to pick me up. Like, I remember all those things. I remember all those things. Your kids remember it too. And so during this time, that we talked about the trip to the Grand Canyon, and they're like, hey, Dad, you're driving the whole time? I'm like, yeah, because I enjoy doing these things.
Yeah.
I want them to remember those things. That's what they're going to remember.
Yeah.
Right? And so so that's what I'm passionate about. I'm just passionate about just creating more relationships because, again, create strong relationships, the opportunities come.
Yeah. I had a great mentor in dental school who she ran a successful practice, and we talk all the time. And she's like, "Look, we're in the relationship business." She's like, "You can, the dentistry all figures it out, but if you don't have that relationship with that patient and their, the team you work with, it's not going to be successful."
How many times have we all saw, and it probably gets a little annoying now, right? But how many times you see on social media or just hearing other doctors talk about, and they're always complaining about like, hey, my team this, my team that, all that, right? And it's the same thing over and over, right?
Yeah.
Like I have this team member and they just want a bunch of money, or they just want to leave here. They're leaving for an extra quarter or whatnot.
Yeah.
And at some point you're thinking to yourself like, okay, hey doc, maybe you should just kind of look inside and
Yes.
see.
Without a doubt, yeah.
I mean, again, we've all had the team members that were kind of difficult and they leave,
Yeah.
and people leave for one reason or another.
Right.
But when it becomes like I call it like a consistent issue,
Yeah.
The
right?
revolving door.
Yeah.
Then there's something there, and I think that as dental professionals, seasoned dental professionals, I mean that's we have to just kind of tell our team, like, look, we talk about leveling up, and you're thinking about leveling up your clinical skills. Hey, I took the CE, I got my fellowship, and I'm trying to get my mastership. But how much time are you putting into just being a better business person, being a better communicator? Because if you're leveling everything up and that's lacking, then that's going to cause
Hold
some
it back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll weigh you
Yeah.
down.
Being a
Imbalance.
better team leader. I mean,
Yeah.
you're the leader of the team. You're the
Yeah.
CEO.
The biggies are, you touched on more
Yeah.
our mentorship and leadership. I mean,
Yeah.
those are two huge
Yeah.
events that everyone needs. I mean,
Yeah.
you need to have, at some level you need to be a leader, and at some level you need to mentor others. And
Yeah.
so it's
He didn't sign up for it, but he became a mentor to me and to him.
well, and here's
that's
the
why
thing.
I look like hell. This has been a tough pull.
Dealing with these two, I know. No, but again, whenever you decide to put your name on the loan or on the lease to become a practice owner, you signed up for it.
Yeah.
Just like whenever we decided to have kids and become a father, you signed up for it.
Yeah.
And you signed up
Yeah.
for you didn't
Yeah.
sign up for,
It's not just the good stuff.
you didn't sign up for good. You signed up for
all of it.
all of it. Same thing can be married too, right? Let's
Yeah.
just be honest, right? Like, I mean, it's the and every year becomes there's something different as you go different stages, right? And so, being a practice owner is the same thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, when you have relationships with your team, and they're going through life, they are changing,
Yeah.
right? Just like in a marriage, you're changing, they're changing, your patients are changing, and so if you're not mindful of that, then you run into this situation where you're always complaining online about this,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
these things,
Yeah.
and at
It's
some
just stop the whining.
Stop-
Stop the whining. Stop
yeah.
it.
and you
Yeah.
have to put the work in. And I think unfortunately there's it's not the majority, but there's some dentists that just like to, I call it like abdicate. They kind of like want to just throw those responsibilities on someone else, like the office manager.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, the office manager, you do
Yeah.
the hiring and firing, you deal with
Yeah.
the team, blah blah blah
Yeah.
blah. And you simply just cannot do that and be happy, right? Because what's going to happen when the office manager leaves?
Yeah. Then
Yeah.
you
Then
have
what?
trouble, Yeah.
Then you're just your hair is on fire and whatnot. And so I know I'm going off a tangent, but I think that's something that, especially now with these younger docs, where maybe the relationship aspect is not as strong. Where before I could probably just call you up on the phone and talk to you,
Mhm.
and now maybe a younger doc will send you a one-page novel via text
100%.
message,
Yeah.
via
Send
text
me-
message,
send me
Yeah.
text.
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
Those
Utterly
things are,
ridiculous.
and that's the thing. I think in the future, as it's easier to communicate in different ways other than using your voice and talking in person, those skills they're slowly. I mean, we can
They're
see it right.
eroding. Yeah.
You can see it right now with with the young people.
Mhm.
It's slowly eroding, and healthcare is not something that you can just send a text message. I mean, you're
No.
going to lose that aspect that makes your practice. I think the doctors that understand that, they'll thrive in this next generation. The ones that don't, they're going to be like, why did my patient just not
Yeah.
show up?
Yeah.
Why did my
Yeah.
patient just, send me didn't even respond to me or
Yeah,
whatnot?
they sent
Yeah.
me a text.
They sent
Yeah,
you
yeah,
a text,
yeah.
and you check
Yeah.
your text. Why didn't they
Right,
tell
yeah.
me something?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's because they're missing that aspect.
Well, it's that
so.
personal touch that you have to have in that relationship.
And we try to do that with my oldest is 20, so she's a sophomore in college, and we've tried to put this in. She'll be like, "Hey, I sent so and so an email. They didn't respond," and I was like, "Well, Amelie, get up, go to their office, knock on their door, and talk to them."
Mhm.
And you'd have thought I told her to take a knife and stab somebody. But she's finally got through that, and she did it, and she's like, "Dad, it works."
Well,
Yeah.
when you guys talked to Charles Loretto about that, Charles, talked about that same thing. He's
Yeah.
like, be the person that is aggressive and wants to follow through on things. Don't be the, I mean, I sent them the email. They didn't respond.
They didn't respond
Well,
to my
go
email.
do something.
Yeah.
Go talk to them. Pick up the phone. Go visit them. Do the things that show that you're willing and engaged on these things.
You know, it was so interesting on these young docs in the DSO that I built that we were needing to hire some dentists, and you'd get like exactly what you said, a text back of, you know, I always say I've gotten texts from these guys where I answer them too many words. It's too many words. It's too many words for me. I got and I'd get these texts back from these young docs that we were trying to hire, and it'd be a whole thing about what they were about, what they wanted, and all these things, and then my answer would be 704-609-8939. Give me a call.
Yeah.
Let me talk to you, because if you can't talk to me,
Yeah.
you can't talk to anybody.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, now I always have a lot to say, but I mean, if you can't pick up the phone and tell me a few things and let me ask you a couple questions.
Yeah.
Not gonna work.
Then it ain't gonna work. Yeah.
And sometimes I mean, I understand sometimes people don't want to have a difficult conversation.
Yeah.
Right. Especially with your team. That's why it's easier to have your office manager to do it. But difficult conversations is a way of life.
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
You're gonna have it with your spouse. You're gonna have it with your kids.
Yeah.
Heck, you might have it with the guy that does takes care of your landscaping. Who knows, right?
Absolutely.
And you're definitely gonna have it with patience.
Creating relationships, building these kind of connections like what we're doing today. Somebody said that we had on a podcast, they were like, look, if you want to be successful, surround yourself by people smarter than you. And then you have to rise. You have to be better than you think you can be. I mean, I'm gonna just go ahead and say you're smarter than both of these guys.
I don't know about that.
Maybe the three of us can gang up on Glenn. We can try to top him out.
When we came down to Podfest, which I thought was great, and we learned so much, and I learned so much from talking to you. One thing that you talked to us about, Simplify is like the baby brother of Nifty and these other things. You have these huge population, 60,000 people. We're just not
Which
there.
is just amazing, Glenn. I mean,
it
without
is.
mentioning and telling you how amazing what you built is, it would be unfair for us. It would be
seeing the struggles to build ours. I mean, and what
Well,
you've done is amazing.
I mean, it's again, we've talked about grit. We're talking about putting the time in. I mean, that started in 2017.
Yeah.
Right. It started in 2017, and also it was something different in the way I ran the group and brought the vendors in and whatnot. And whenever you do something that's different, and this goes with anything in life, whenever you do something different, you're always going to run into people who either don't understand, maybe are a little jealous of it or whatnot, but you're going to find detractors. And I think that part of grit and putting in the work is also blocking out like the naysayers.
Sure.
And I think that's super,
all the
that's-
background noise.
That's so important. And again, translating that to owning a practice. Look, you're going to have a lot of people give you different advice, some good, some bad. Some vendors might tell you something, some consultants might tell you something. But if you have a vision, if you believe in something, you're going to have to just block it out, because that's what's going to happen, right? And it's going to distract you. And so with the whole Nifty Thrifty Dentist, if you hang around long enough, right? So again, if you open a practice, you're gonna have a lot of people, naysayers and whatnot. But if you, by year 5 and you're doing good, those people start getting quieter and quieter, right?
Yeah.
And so what you guys are doing, I think is amazing. And maybe someone has said, like, why are you doing another podcast or whatnot? That's not the type of people you want to listen to.
Yeah.
You want to listen to the people who are like, hey, join the club. You got something to offer. This is just gonna make everything, someone with abundance mindset. And what happens is, over time, the background noise gets quieter and quieter. And now I would say, I mean, I still hear a few things here, but definitely now, like, I don't hear way less than I had when I first started. Yeah.
And you were kind enough, when we were talking about this, you're like, hey, look, he goes, listen to me or don't, but here's what I think. I think you guys need to find the niche that is not served in the community world right now. We're never going to be Nifty Thrifty Dentist. We're never going to be Dental Nachos. We're never going to be in those kind of places. But so what is it that is necessary? And you're like, hey, you guys don't realize, but you've probably forgotten
Yeah.
more than a lot of people have done.
Oh,
Yeah.
some of it with not on purpose.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you, man. You know,
Yeah.
we were talking this morning about working on living off of lists.
Yeah.
But you
exactly.
know, it's kind of one of those. It's one of those things where you're like, you guys need to capitalize on your skill set. And I think your skill set is, call it whatever you want, and we've kind of looked at it as seasoned, experienced, and aspirational dentist.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it is. How would you define a seasoned, experienced doc?
Well, I mean, I would just say a seasoned, experienced doc. I mean, obviously, we have to put like a time frame, right? Like, maybe 10 years in,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Maybe 10 years in, who has gone through all the struggles from starting the practice, growing, scaling the practice, dealing with all the changes that comes with a growing practice. And again, you get all those things by putting time into the profession. And so that's why I brought that up. It's like, look, you guys are amazing. What you've done in your professional careers and what you've done with your families as well.
Mhm.
Because look, I mean, that's a huge component, right? Look, I'm not saying that anybody can do it, but most people, they can grow a successful business if that's all they had to do. The people who really impress me are the ones that are able to balance everything, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how many times have we've seen somebody like amazing entrepreneur that maybe they're the richest person in the world, right?
Mhm.
And they have like 5 ex-wives or something like
Mhm.
that,
Yeah.
right? Right. So again, like a seasoned, going back to your question, a seasoned dentist is someone who's been through the experiences of starting a practice and growing a practice, and again, you guys are a wealth of information. We talk about like giving back.
Mhm.
What better way? I mean, maybe this is something where I can work with you guys on. Is I just feel like there's got to be a better way of the doctors who've had a great career, who've been through it all, to maybe mentor the next group.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something, unless you're working side by side as an associate, I don't think there's anything like that right now. And so, especially with these newer docs who will send you a novel instead of call you on the
Yeah.
phone, I think it's hearing it from doctors like yourself that they'll take to it, as opposed to, like, they're not gonna listen to their parents. Like, we all know about that,
Yeah.
right? They're not gonna listen to their parents, but they might listen to the three of you.
Well, it's interesting too. I think that benchmark that you said is important, because then you also have had enough time to gain a little clinical humility,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and that's something that goes unspoken quite
Oh,
a bit.
gosh.
You know,
Yeah.
you know 100% of everything in your first 6 months out of a program,
Yeah.
and then you progressively realize that maybe I don't know 100% of everything, and I just kind of reference it as clinical humility, it's there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's there for all of us, but that's such a good point, Glenn. I really appreciate
Well,
it.
think about like the first few times when your work came back, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your first recall, or
Yeah.
let's say like 3 or 4 years down the line, and that crown that you did, like,
Mhm.
hey, that crown's gonna last like forever.
A good,
right?
a
Like,
good 6 months.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah.
we say forever when we were
Yeah.
fresh out of school, and then we see the reality of
Yeah.
it, and then we're like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
like I did that.
Yeah,
Like
you
you look at the
start
bike
walking
weight, like
back things.
you tell your assistant, take another one.
Yeah.
Like maybe
Yeah.
something happened.
Yeah, I
It's
think
different.
that angle. Turn that angle just a little bit. Oh man, that looks great.
That's right.
My clinical mentor made this statement one time. He goes, "There's levels of competence," and he stole it from somebody else. And he said, "When you come out of school, there's unconscious incompetence. You are so incompetent that you don't even know how incompetent you are. Then that progresses into conscious incompetence. You start progressing, and now you understand that you are incompetent.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And
So then you take
Yeah.
you get other bad habits,
yeah,
right?
and then it progresses into conscious competence. As you progress on, now you're competent and you understand you're competent. But then when it really progresses and we really get on top of your profession or whatever you're doing, is when it becomes unconscious competence.
Yeah.
You've progressed through.
You
Now
just
you're,
do.
You're
Yeah.
unconsciously competent, and then the final one is the unconscious super competence, where you are
Yeah.
at the top of the profession. And I think not that we're unconscious competence or unconscious super.
I don't know, Moose. I don't know if I can follow all that consciousness, unconsciousness. You're making me
Is
unconscious.
that id, ego?
You're making me
and all
unconscious
that
right
other
now,
stuff?
man. I'm telling you.
Well, I'm unconsciously competent, but it's having that pool of resources that I think can help docs. I think they can lean on these groups, and I think that's what it is. And I think that's where we want simplified dentistry to be. We want it to be, hey, you may have 60,000 people in Nifty Thrifty Dentist, and some of them are in those other things. So you guys do a lot of things, but maybe there's a place for them in Simplify to progress in this and to lean in kind of on the experience is where we look at it,
Yeah, I mean, I'm the newer out of the four of us, I guess. So, I'm at that tenure point. My tenure reunion is next weekend. So,
Wow.
so
you might be consciously incompetent.
Yeah, exactly.
TBD.
I'm just surprised Moose was humble enough to say that he's unconsciously competent.
Yeah,
I thought for sure it was going to be super competence.
I signed on just to unconsciousness. Yeah.
But it's it's that type of when we started this, and I was reaching out to a bunch of my peers and classmates, and still texting and all that stuff too. But they're like, oh my gosh, we'll something will get posted. I'm like, man, I was having this issue yesterday in my office. I texted two guys that are our age that didn't know what to do, but the people you had involved in Simplify were able to give me a much better view due to their experience at this, and it helped me figure out this issue and how to move forward with it.
But the funny thing, I think, and Rick and I talk about this all the time, you have a lot of friends in the profession, and you have a lot of people you went to school with. You have a lot of people that you play golf with that are in the profession. It is amazing to me how few of them want a friend to be successful. And I think it happens in dentistry all the time. You can have the best idea, and people aren't going to participate because they don't want
to
be
build it
successful.
up. Yeah.
And it's tough,
A mentor of mine explained that to me, that phenomenon, right? I'm like, why is it that sometimes the people who don't know who I am are like the raving fans?
They're cheering for you.
Yeah.
And the person who maybe I grew up with, went to high school with, or went to dental school with, they're kind of like quiet, right?
Yeah.
Now, I say this is not a generalization. That's not everybody, okay? Obviously, I have friends and people I went to school with that are just, hey, they're just very happy for me. But I didn't understand that phenomenon. And my mentor told me this. My mentor's like, well, because they are acknowledging, if they give you your flowers, if they praise you, they are acknowledging that you have gone to another level, that you're no longer here.
You're not one of them.
You're not like, hey, this is a guy that I went to high school with, and now he's doing that. And so when he told me that, I was like, wow, that made a lot of sense. But it also motivated me to be like, I don't want to be like that.
Yeah.
I don't want to be like that.
Right. 100%.
I want to be the guy that's like, that's amazing. That's inspiring to me.
Yeah.
Like, you came from like my hometown or went to my dental school. And
Yeah.
so, but
I'd rather work with the guys I know, the girls I know. That's who I would rather support than somebody kind of way outside of me.
Yeah. But again, that's a phenomenon. And when he explained that to me, I was like, oh,
You start realizing you have that tighter group that is willing to help you and rely on you and build you up and let you build them up as well.
Yeah.
They're the other ones that are celebrating your failures more than they are your successes.
Yeah, and I think a big part of maturation in life in general, as a dentist for sure, is you have to realize you have to shut out the naysayers and the background noise people, because they'll keep, if you listen to the herd mentality or the herd conversation, they're going to all be over here eating grass, whereas you're sitting there going, hey, I think there's something else to eat out here, let's go find it. And they're going to be looking at you going, hey man, but the grass is over here. And I think it limits your ability to be creative on your own behalf if you listen to the I mean, I think you listen. I guess you don't shut them out. I guess you listen, but you don't let it bother you.
Glenn, we're going to lean on you while we have you here with a bunch of questions that I think our listeners would appreciate. What's your advice for a tenure doc?
My advice is figure out what your end game is. And what I mean by that is in dentistry, this is something we can all understand. When you tell a patient you need a crown, you already imagine what that looks like at the end.
Mm-hmm.
You don't go and like, hey, let me prep this and let's see what happens, right? But yet in our careers, that's literally what people are doing. They're like, I'm just gonna keep working until I just fall over. Like literally, I've heard people say, I'll just keep working. And I tell them, I was like,
in the chair.
yeah, literally. And what I tell them is like, look, you got to look at your career as a dentist as a career like a professional athlete. Okay, I mean, you have only a certain amount of time until your skills start going down.
Right.
X number of reps.
Your skills start going down.
Mhm.
And they're like, well, I'm not ready to sell or any of those things. I say, no. I'm not telling you to sell today, but you got to have that plan in your head, because if you wait until your skills are going down,
Yeah.
we're going to buy your practice at a lower amount.
Yeah.
So you have to almost think about that. And then you have to think about, okay, well, what does that like look like? Okay. You want to get X amount at an exit, right? You got to look at, okay, the exit strategies. Are they going to ask you to stay on for a few years? So you got to add that into your calculations, right? You can't wait until you're ready. You have one foot out the door, because then you have no leverage.
Yeah.
And so a tenure dog, you need to figure out like, how much more time are you going to practice realistically?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Realistically, at a high level, not like, I mean, look, my wife, she's a dentist. She loves being a dentist. She will practice forever.
Mm-hmm.
But even she says like, I mean, I want to cut down, but I still want to do dentistry. Well, if you're going to do that, then your lifestyle is going to change and whatnot. So I would say at the 10-year mark, you really need to think about your exit strategy, not getting out of dentistry, but possibly moving on from what you're doing right now. So that's my big advice. Too many doctors, they wait till the end, and that's when they get you.
Yeah.
You're desperate. I
Mhm.
mean, it's just like going to buy a car when you don't have a car, right?
Yeah.
You want to
But-
buy a car when you have a nice car and
Yeah.
you can wheel and deal. And if they say no, well, okay, I'll just
Yeah.
keep
Well,
driving my car.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what they need to think about.
What do you wish you did earlier in your career?
Oh gosh. Wow. That's a tough question, because I feel like I'm blessed with a lot of opportunity. I have a blessed life. Things were hard. I made a post about this on social media. I mean, when I was younger, I used to think like, why me? Like, why do I have to work 2 jobs? I have friends who are like, their parents are paying for it. I used to complain about all those things. And now, as I've gotten older, I'm like, those things really shaped who I am.
Mhm.
Maybe have kids earlier.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it.
When you're a little younger to rely on
I
them,
mean,
yeah.
because my wife is like, we have 2 kids, and I kept on bugging her like, hey, I mean, I think 3 is a good number. She's like, no, we're too old for that. And I'm like, so maybe like if we started earlier, I would have my 3. I grew up with 4 siblings,
Yeah.
Mhm.
so it was fun, and so yeah, maybe that's it. But I'm pretty happy with how life turned out for me.
What's one piece of financial advice you would give to practitioners?
Oh man, this is a big one. Just because you're a good dentist, just because you grew a successful practice, doesn't mean that you are a financial genius. Okay, you have to lean on the advice of not just any financial professional, someone with a track record. I
Mhm.
think in general, if you're going to work with someone with a track record,
Mhm.
not, hey, I did a couple of things for a few years, like a season. And I think dentists, unfortunately, because, you have to be somewhat intelligent to be a dentist, that they figure like, oh, I'm smart enough, I can figure it out myself. And those are like some famous last words for a lot of dentists on a financial aspect.
Mhm.
They think like, oh, yeah, I'll just start flipping some homes. Well, how
Yeah.
hard can it be? Oh,
Yeah.
I'll just rehab this home, until you actually get into it.
Yeah.
And so learn from seasoned professionals and work with seasoned professionals.
What's a mistake you made that you learned from and change your career?
Oh gosh, that is a feeling like I know everything. I don't need any. I don't. I don't need a mentor. I can figure it out on my own. If you want to move fast, you work with people who've been there before.
Mhm.
If you wanna massage your ego, then do it yourself. I much rather move faster, and so I'd work with it. So that was a mistake I made early in my career that made some bad mistakes with trying to figure it out on my own.
We know why our guests are here. We invite people here because we want to lean on them and we want to get their advice and we want to get it out to our listeners. Why are you here?
I'm here, to be honest, because I wanted to get to know you guys a lot better. You guys have been amazing for our profession. For those who are watching right now, you're wondering, like, wait a minute, these guys just started. No, they've been around. They've accomplished amazing things. And for me, I just want to be people who are doing amazing things, who have an abundance mindset. I want to be around those people. So honestly, I wanted to come here because to share a little bit of my knowledge. But I enjoyed my time and spending. The magic happens, and for those who are watching this, why you want to be on a podcast, the magic happens after the recording. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thank you.
Well, thank you again for being with us, Glenn. We really appreciate appreciate you taking the time to come all the way here from Dallas. I think our listeners will definitely benefit from what you said. The last question we like to ask everybody is, what's your advice on how our listeners can simplify dentistry?
Man, I would say just always focus on the basics, right? A lot of times people want to overcomplicate their practice. They want to buy this new piece of a technology. They want to add all these different services. And honestly, if you have the basics down, clinically, dealing with people, communication, if you have the basics down, that's more than enough for you to be successful. So I think a lot of times people are always looking for the new tactic, the shiny new object. That just distracts you. Make sure you get the fundamentals down, get the basics down.
Well, thank you very much again, Glenn. We appreciate you.
I had a
being here.
great
Yeah,
time,
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you
This is
very
great,
much.
man.
Yeah. Thank you.